Welcome to the Aramark Occupational Safety Training, Standard Operating Procedures for Incident Responses. But before we go any further, there are a few things you need to know. Let's find out more about SOPs for incident responses. At Aramark, we need to work together to create a safe and healthy work environment. Our goal is to achieve Target Zero, no harm to people or to the environment. No matter your job or workplace, you will have the responsibility to perform certain tasks, authority to do certain things, and accountability for the outcome. Each of these aspects can be related back to health and safety. The internal responsibility system makes everyone responsible for health and safety, regardless of role. It contains a clear set of statements about responsibility and authority. You don't just do health and safety on a Thursday afternoon when you've got a few spare minutes. Health and safety should be ingrained in everything that you do. We have standard operating procedures, or SOPs, to detail how a policy is to be implemented. SOPs are written guidelines that explain procedures and tasks involving recognized hazards and incident response. Aramark has created a corresponding SOP to keep you safe and ensure your actions are the safest possible. Before we discuss SOPs, we need to discuss hazards and controls. Controls eliminate or reduce hazards and hazard exposure. Think of controls in a hierarchy. From the top, we have elimination, substitution, engineering controls, administrative controls, and personal protective equipment. SOPs are considered to be an administrative control. They explain how we perform tasks to limit our exposure to a hazard. Aramark has numerous incident response SOPs, including, but not limited to, Emergency Evacuation Plan, Injury and Incident Investigation and Reporting. As an employee, you have responsibilities that are commonly found in SOPs. You must comply with the requirements outlined in the SOPs, immediately report the absence of or defect in any equipment or protective device, immediately report all situations or incidents where there is a non-compliance with this procedure or applicable provincial occupational health and safety legislation. Immediately notify your supervisor of any hazard or injury. Immediately contact your supervisor to replace defective, damaged, or worn-out equipment, and participate in health and safety training regarding workplace hazards. The Emergency Evacuation Plan SOP is an example of an incident response procedure. The purpose of this SOP is to protect the health and safety of our workers, staff, volunteers, and visitors at Aramark by ensuring that emergency situations are handled quickly and effectively. The purpose of an emergency preparedness procedure is to prevent and reduce injuries or fatalities, reduce damage to Aramark Canada facility, contents, and equipment, reduce loss of materials, and reduce loss of productivity. Minimizing such losses shall facilitate the return to normal operation in the shortest possible time. Always remain calm. Advise workers in the immediate vicinity and supervisor if possible. Follow site evacuation protocol. Assist those with disabilities as required. Remain in the designated safe area until the emergency is over, and do not speak to the media or make any public announcements. If you discover an incident that requires an external evacuation, you should notify other workers by triggering an alarm system. Leave the building in a calm, orderly fashion. Assist any people with a disability. Ensure that the last person to exit the building has closed the doors. If you discover an incident that prompts an internal evacuation, you should shut down any equipment in use and assemble all workers at the internal evacuation point. There may be other situations that arise that site-specific procedures have been developed for. Your supervisor will inform you of anything specific to your location. In order to be prepared for any type of evacuation, always participate in all drills and emergency preparedness training, including fire safety. When using a fire extinguisher, remember this easy acronym, PASS, P-A-S-S. P, pull the pin. A, aim the nozzle. S. Squeeze the handle. S. Sweep side to side at the base of the fire. Please note, if when using a fire extinguisher, the fire is physically larger than you can safely handle, evacuate the area and notify others to evacuate as per the emergency plan. Another example of an incident response SOP is the Injury or Incident Investigation and Reporting SOP. The purpose of this procedure is to identify the requirements for reporting workplace injuries, illnesses, and incidents arising out of the scope of employment, to determine why an injury, illness, or incident occurred, what happened, and what can be done to prevent a reoccurrence. This procedure covers accidents and incidents affecting employees, visitors, and other persons on Aramark work sites. One of the more recognizable control measures is personal protective equipment, or PPE. The purpose of the personal protective equipment SOP is to ensure that all employees of Aramark receive instruction on the proper use, care, and maintenance of PPE as required by law and Aramark policy. All employees are required to use, wear, clean, and maintain all PPE in proper condition, not use or wear PPE if defective or damaged, and immediately contact their supervisor to replace defective, damaged, or worn-out PPE. When you discover an incident where a coworker has been injured or fallen ill on the job, you should get the employee first aid or medical care, immediately notify their supervisor or manager, complete a hazard report form if necessary, cooperate in the incident investigation process, report all facts as you saw them, leave the incident scene untouched unless assisting a worker or trying to prevent further damage, and do not get in the way of investigations, hold back any information, or enter restricted areas after an incident has occurred. If you discover an incident where a coworker needs first aid attention, contact a certified first aider to provide treatment immediately. Report any injury or illness to a supervisor or manager. If it is identified that the employee requires additional medical attention, then your supervisor or manager will arrange for transportation to the hospital, doctor's office, or worker's home. The preferred method of transport, if required, is an ambulance. Should an ambulance not be appropriate, then your supervisor will call for a taxi. The ill or injured worker will be accompanied by the first aid attendant or a traveling companion, and the employee will not be allowed to continue work until medical clearance is provided. Lastly, if you yourself experience an injury or illness, remember to always inform your supervisor or manager. Participate in the incident investigation, including any suggested ways to prevent such an incident from happening again. Keep your supervisor or manager updated on your status while off work from an injury or illness. You are also responsible for visiting your family physician and picking up the proper early return to work forms, and you must also be sure to cooperate with the procedure by conducting those tasks that were identified as properly modified work and therefore safe to carry out. We have discussed common incident response SOPs. Ask your supervisor for more information regarding the many SOPs that Aramark has developed. The internal responsibility system and its related concepts is the foundation for success in health and safety. In order for the internal responsibility system to be successful in a workplace, everyone must follow their responsibilities. Standard operating procedures are our means for clearly communicating each person's responsibilities. As such, SOPs are vital to ensuring the success of the internal responsibility system at Aramark. Always remember, incidents are preventable. Everyone is responsible for safety, and participation in prevention activities reduces incidents. Together, we can move closer to Target Zero, no harm to people or the environment.